Okay, World Cup Soccer, problem when it came is the score display did not work. The game booted, no problems, everything worked. So check the voltages. You can check the voltages right here. There should be minus 112, minus 100. Notice those two voltages are 12 volts off and 68 volts. So you have 68 over here and then the minus 112 and the minus 100 right here. And the problem is that on the minus 100, it wasn't minus 100, it was minus 90, so it was 22 volts off. If you have that offset, it's not 12 volts, the display won't work. So in this circuit up here, the interesting thing is the minus 112 and the minus 100 are derived from the same input voltage. And usually if I have a situation where those voltages are not 12 volts off, it's usually related to resistors. These guys, I always check these. These are 47K, right? Am I right? Yeah, they're 47Ks. And there were two of them. You can see the two bigger ones. Those are the ones I replaced. You got to pull them up one end at a time to test them. You can't test them in circuit because they're next to these caps. And you'll load up the caps. It just doesn't work. You got to remove one end of them. But the guy that was dead was that guy right there, which was here. This was the original, a 5-watt 47K, and he was completely open. So I replaced that guy, I replaced those two, and now the circuit is working properly, have all the correct voltages, and our score display is working. Okay, so here is our minus 113. Here, these are the correct voltages, minus 112. So you can see that those are 12 volts apart. Minus 101 and minus 113, that's what you got to have. If you don't have that minus 12 volt offset, you're never going to get, the display's never going to work. And there's our 65 volts. Those are the high voltages that are generated up here by this circuit that you got to have if the display doesn't light up. It's usually related to that. And like I said, on these two, we had minus 112, but over here, I didn't have minus 101. I had minus 89 or something like that. So it was like 22, 23, 24 volts off. And that's because, again, this bad resistor and these two bad resistors up here. It's a real common thing I see on these. How did I know it wasn't the transistors? Because if the transistors or the diodes go out, usually you get really wacky numbers, not these ones that are so close together. So here's the 4.7K resistor. I could have tested this in the board. Actually, I did. And you can see when I put it on the meter, I get nothing. It's gone completely open. And this is, compared to this, just the test that your meter leads are actually working. So this is pretty typical of what happens on these high voltage circuits, that the resistors do tend to go open. So it's always good to check them. Those other smaller ones, those 47Ks, you can't test in circuit. You got to remove one leg. But this one you certainly can.